other big and small, strong and weak, ugly and shifty, beautiful and sleek. They hop, they jump, they slither and slide, come out in the open and they run and hide. It takes all kinds to live in Bug City. Some are weird and some are pretty. Come on down, let's meet in Bug City. Don't let them bug you. There's nothing to be afraid of. Bugs can be fun. We're all friends here. So come on down, let's meet in Bug City with Christina Ricci, Dr. Art.
And don't forget me, Bugsy Seagull.
All right, get ready. I'm thinking of an insect. Now, this is a big favorite, so see how fast you can guess who it is. Or should I say who she is? Because most of them are she's.
Hey, I know who it is, Christina.
Of course you do. You were backstage for the show.
But so, I still know who it is.
She may live in huge societies along with thousands of her sisters, or she may live completely alone. She creates one of the yummiest foods ever invented, and sometimes she makes something that lights up our table. These insects are so famous for their hard work, their industriousness, that people use them as good examples. We have little expressions.
I know what it is, too. You're as busy as a bee.
Gosh, I must have startled him. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Dr. Art. This is Dr. Art Evans, our entomologist. That means an insect expert.
I've got a wonderful bit of information for you, a great bee fact that very few people know.
A real eye-opener, I hope.
You bet. Did you know that the honeybee, the bee we all think of as being the bee, is actually one of the least common species of bee on Earth?
I hardly knew there were other bees, except bumblebees, I guess.
We're fairly certain that people have been keeping bees for at least 4,000 years. As a matter of fact, cave paintings show Stone Age humans 8,000 years ago raiding beehives.
All for the love of honey.
Honey, honey, oh, what honey? Where?
Oh no, Bugsy, seagulls do not eat honey.
Yeah, wanna bet? This seagull does. Honey.
No, Bugsy. This honey is for the show.
Have a close look at these flowers. The lines and shadings on the various petals might look like decoration. Just the pretty designs you'd expect of flowers. But that's not why they're there. These patterns are actually runways, like the lines on an airfield for planes. They're guides for bees and other insects, directing them where to find the good food in this flower. What you're looking at is a little-known fact about flowers and about bees. Look at this.
If asked, most of us would surely say that a bee's greatest gift is the production of honey. But making honey is not the bee's most important function in our world, not by a long shot. What bees do that enhances the life of every human and animal on this planet is pollinate. Bees, as they feed, carry pollen from one flower to another, thereby enabling flowering plants to reproduce. Not only do we have bees to thank for the beauty of flowers around us, but also for a great deal of our food. Fruits come from flowering plants, as do most vegetables and nuts. If we look closely at a field bee gathering nectar and pollen for food, we can see how elaborately flowers and bees have come to work together for their mutual survival. The bee's vision comes from these huge compound eyes, each with 3,000 individual lenses, compared to a human's one lens. The bee's eyesight, while it appears fuzzy to us, is highly attuned to colors, which is precisely why flowers have developed very bright colors. What bees see that we can't is a whole different range or spectrum of light, which includes ultraviolet. Many flowers are tinted with lines and dots best seen in ultraviolet, which means the petals are specifically designed to guide bees to the exact spot where the most nectar and pollen are found. Since nectar is usually found deep down in the flower's throat, the bee has developed a long sipping mouthpart called a proboscis in order to reach the precious nectar, a sweet syrup which they use both for food and for making honey. Most bees have fine hairs over their bodies, hairs designed to pick up pollen as efficiently as magnets. This hollyhock flower will literally bathe a visiting bee with pollen, thereby ensuring that the plant will be pollinated. This plant, called a salvia, actually has a spring-loaded trigger mechanism for depositing pollen on the bee. When the bee lands and probes for nectar, a mechanical arm drops down and deposits a dab of pollen on the bee's back. The next flower the bee visits will be fertilized by the transferred pollen. Once its job is done, the special arm retracts, saving the rest of its pollen cargo for the next bee visit. Like all insects, bees have 3 body parts: head, thorax, and abdomen, 6 legs and 2 antennae. This bee uses its front legs to collect pollen from its face and antennae. With its middle pair of legs, the bee scrapes pollen from its body and deposits the sticky powder into containers called pollen baskets on its back legs. From the middle of the bee's 3 body parts come the wings. Though it appears bees have only 1 set of wings, if you look closely, you can see 2 pairs. Bees are excellent flyers. They can visit and pollinate up to 13 flowers in a minute. Some will fly 60 miles in a single workday, reaching speeds up to 16 miles an hour.
Hold it! Now wait a minute, please. Bees can fly 16 miles an hour, so what? Bzzz, stop at flower. Bzzz, stop at another flower. Bzzz, then another. Need I go on with this? That's not flight, that's air swimming. My mother-in-law can fly better than that. 16 miles an hour. Big deal.
Also, bees can fly backwards and sideways, flapping their wings 200 to 250 times per second and carrying up to 1/3 of their body weight while they're at it.
Ah, well, so what? Can they dive and swoop? Nah. Can they catch a French fry off of a moving 5-year-old kid? Huh, no way. That's flying, pal. So impress me with something else.
My pleasure, Bugsy. Have a look at this.
Many species of bees are social creatures, living in close-knit colonies. They are famous in the animal world for their highly developed and super-organized societies. For example, among these Amazonian honeybees, every individual you see is a female, but only one, this large queen, is fertile and able to reproduce. All the rest of the bees are her sterile daughters and her servants. The social honeybees' nests are divided into specialized areas. Some parts are reserved for raising the young, while others are for storing the colony's reserves of honey and pollen. To run such a complex society requires a very precise division of labor. The youngest bees tend the nursery. The older ones do the construction, building chambers for raising the young or for storing food. Still others have the job of cleaning refuse and the dead bodies of their worn-out sisters from the hive. A worker bee's life is one of constant labor and is over in less than a month. The queen may live for 2 or 3 years. The queen has only one job: to produce and lay the eggs that will ensure the future of the colony. After checking a brood cell to see that it contains enough food for a larva, she lays 1 egg and then moves on. One of the nurse bees immediately seals up the chamber with wax from her abdomen. Nurses will guard the cell day and night for 3 weeks until the egg hatches. One of the secrets to bees' success is that they can store up enough extra honey and protein-rich pollen to see them through the lean times when there are few flowers. While the honey produced by wild Amazonian bees certainly tastes as good as anything you would find in a store, Most of the honey which humans eat is produced by domesticated honeybees like these. This is the European honeybee. Once she has gathered nectar and brought it back to the hive, another bee transfers it into her own stomach. There, she partially digests the nectar and then deposits it into a storage cell. Finally, she fans the nectar until exactly 61% of the water has been evaporated. The result is that magical substance, honey, so treasured by humans the world over that we collect and consume 1 million tons of it every year.
As wondrous as honeybees are, they number, as we said earlier, only about 4 out of the 20,000 known species of bees in the world. Honeybees are by far the most socially advanced of modern bees, but social behavior is certainly not the norm for wild bees.
Oh, no! There are more bees? Hey, can't we study something really interesting? Like hot dogs or caramel corn.
Sorry, Bugsy. Wild bees are just more interesting. Here, have a look.
Wherever there are flowers blooming, there's a good chance you'll find bees around. This rugged desert is one of the habitats of the solitary carpenter bee. Unlike the social bees we've seen, this female is the nest's sole worker. She is the carpenter, the nurse, the field bee, and the queen. Even the male may not enter the nest. When his services are required, she will mate with him on the wing. Once fertilized, the carpenter bee will lay an egg almost a third the size of her body on this giant pollen ball. The larva produced may be male or female, but all will soon vacate the nest, with the exception of one daughter. This daughter will be fed and tended by her mother until the mother dies, at which time the daughter will inherit the nest. Meanwhile, the daughter bee will serve as a vigilant guard whenever mother is out foraging. Her bold, shiny black face blocks the nest so that no other insect or animal will attempt to claim it. Another fascinating solitary bee makes her nest by digging underground. This is the alkali bee. Her nest, complete with pollen balls, eggs, and larvae, contains several chambers in which she has laid eggs several days apart. During the spring, her brood chambers will consist of larvae, pupae, and near adults ready to emerge as soon as the summer sun warms the ground. The alkali bee is a great friend to Western farmers, who rely upon it to pollinate their valuable crops of alfalfa hay. Another solitary bee which we rarely see is the leafcutter. This bee is so crucial to hay farmers that quantities of them are transported in special man-made habitats called bee boards, from which the leafcutters come and go, collecting the food they love and at the same time pollinating the farmers' crops. While in the field, the leafcutter not only collects pollen and nectar, but also chews off and brings back to her nest small pieces of leaves. With these, she builds brood chambers inside her tube. When she has prepared 20 or so such chambers, she seals the tube with one last piece of leaf. She will not live long enough to see her young hatch, but the alfalfa farmers who brought her here will be very grateful next season for her painstaking labor.
Leafcutter bees are the ones that are cutting out nearly perfect circles on the leaves of your garden plants. In fact, one of their favorite leaves are those found on rose bushes. These solitary bees will build their nests in a variety of cavities in wood, such as abandoned holes of wood-boring insects or even nail holes in fences. If you're interested in attracting wild bees, here's a good pencil alert for you. A nesting block for leafcutter bees may be purchased or made at home by drilling holes into wood. Remember, never use power tools. Always have a parent or teacher help you. Be sure that the holes do not go all the way through the wood, since the bees require that their nesting sites have closed ends. Firmly attach your nesting block to a tree or a fence. Leafcutter bees can't use a moving target. A box of large soda straws can also be used as a nesting site. Simply open the box and wrap tape around it and place it securely in your garden. Firmly attach the bundled straws lengthwise to a branch so that you can easily see the open end. Remember that each kind of leafcutter bee makes its nest in a tunnel of a particular size, and your straws might not be the right size for the bees in your area. However, lots of other insects and spiders will choose to use your straws to build their homes.
Dr. Art, I'm confused. Are yellow jackets, you know those bees that always ruin outdoor picnics, are they really bees?
Yellow jackets and hornets are actually wasps.
Wow, wait. Bees, wasps, they're all the same to me. All of them come after your food, and all of them sting you. So, what's in the name?
Well, I have some bees and wasps here in this case. All of these are bees except for the yellow jacket and the hornet. Wasps feed their young chewed up insects and spiders, but bees feed their young pollen and nectar. And if you put a bee under a microscope, you can see that it has branched hairs, and that helps them to carry pollen. We have a very special treat today.
I know, all the honey we can eat on the house. I just love you, Dr. Rod, I love you.
What are you trying to be, a bee?
Huh? Me? Bzzz.
Joining us is a University of California professor and one of the world's leading authorities on bees, Dr. Norman Gary. So glad to have you here, Norman.
Thank you.
Dr. Gary, do you have live bees in there?
Well, I have a few baby bees in there. I took all of the older bees out because we didn't want to have them flying around here in the studio. This is a honeycomb made of pure beeswax. The bees secrete the wax themselves, and then they fashion it with their teeth or the mandibles into little cells, hexagonal cells, which are known for the great structural strength and also for the least building material, beeswax. So these cells not only store the honey, but they're sort of round enough to accommodate the bodies of bees, and that's where they rear the brood too, the baby bees. So that's honeycomb. Now I'd like to show you another comb that's been in here longer, and the bees are filling it with honey. These open cells still have nectar that's being processed. Once the process is complete and it's really honey, then the bees fill the cell and cap it over with the pure beeswax cappings, and it stores indefinitely in this form. Okay, let's go to the next frame, which happens to be taken from the brood chamber. You see in this central area, the color of those cells is different from the upper perimeter. This is capped honey, this is the brood. In that core then of the colony, it's incubated at 94 degrees. Now, the queen lays 1 egg per cell. It takes 21 days then for the egg to complete development through larva, pupa, and so forth. On the 21st day, this is what we see, young bees being born. So
that's right, they're emerging right now.
You betcha. I'm going to show you a young bee just coming out of this cell. Let's see if we can help it a little bit. Opening that cell up. Come on out, bee, and see the world. Isn't that sweet? A baby bee. Actually, it's an adult bee. But she's so young that she can hardly walk, she can't fly at all, and she can't sting. But give her 2 or 3 days, she'll be alert and active and whatever.
And fully armed.
You betcha. I think I'd like to show you how honey tastes. Let me show you how I like to harvest honey. I like to take my finger and just go across here and watch now. You watch. Oh, yeah. See the honey running out of there?
It's making my mouth water.
Yeah. Where are the pancakes? Really, I'd like to take you out to the real beehive with thousands of bees in it. Would you like to do that?
No, not me. I'll just stay in here and, you know, I'll guard the honey and all the rest of the stuff, okay?
I'll stay here, too. I have some activities to prepare.
Sure. Will you go with me?
Yep.
All
I'm
right.
the brave one. I'll come with you.
Great. Let's do that right now. Now this is a real hive. When we want to open the hive, we put smoke on them, and it keeps them from stinging us. Now beekeepers also use, in addition to smoke, they use a protective clothing, and I'd like to model it right now. Would you come in and show us how you wear the protective clothing? This is a white jumpsuit, and he's wearing a bee veil. So this is the basic protective gear worn by beekeepers. Thank you.
Why don't you wear that?
Well, I've been doing this for about 45 years, and I feel like I know the bees fairly well, and they know me, and so today I'm going to take a little chance and not wear the clothing. So we're smoking. The smoke has had a chance to take effect inside the hive. Wow.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that beautiful? A frame of honey. And that's so beautiful, I think.
It is. If a bee approaches you or lands on you, what's the best thing to do?
Ah, that's a very good question. If a bee approaches you, you want to run fast and get away from the bees. Just keep running fast until you're completely away from the bee's nest.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to close this hive up. We've looked at them long enough. We don't want to disturb them any more than we have to. You see this little vial?
Uh-huh.
This is the equivalent of thousands of queen bees. It's really the essence of queen bee. It's a perfume, synthetic. I made it myself.
Oh.
I'm going to put this right on my clothing like this. By the time I finish this, I'll be covered with bees.
That's really incredible.
Now, don't you dare ask me how many bees I have here.
A lot.
A lot. Probably up to 120,000 all total. All right, well, so they think I'm a giant queen bee. We don't want to rush them too much. It takes a while to get them going here.
Oh, gosh.
Kids, don't try this at home.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, there you are.
Be aware that some people are very sensitive to bee stings. If you are stung, tell an adult immediately.
Factualities! We've come to the really interesting part of the show. That's my part. Now, here's some things I bet you didn't know. Did you know that bees taste with their feet? Blah. Did you also know that bees have two stomachs, one for digestion and the other for converting nectar into honey? And also, the average honeybee hive contains 30,000 to 60,000 bees. And almost all of them bees are sisters. Wow. You talk about crowded apartments. Did you also know that man can walk on the moon, but only bees can make honey? And they haven't been able to figure out yet how they do it. It's only bees who can make honey. Did you know that? And that one colony of honeybees can produce several hundred pounds of honey in a single summer. That's why they're busy as bees. This is Bugsy Seagull saying that's it from Factualities. See you next time, kids.
That's all the time we have for today's Bug City on the wonderful world of bees. Will you ever look at them the same old way? I won't.
And be sure to watch for different kinds of bees in your neighborhood, now that you know who they are.
Our warmest thanks to Dr. Norman Gary and his bees for making this such an amazing Bug City.
So long. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, we'll be seeing you. Get it? Be seeing you. Okay, goodbye.